Thank you all so much. My name is Jackie Dzelski, President and CEO at the Manatee Chamber, and welcome to our August Headliners Luncheon featuring our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jason Wysong. We're thrilled that you're here. Many of you may have students who started school last week, so for the superintendent and his team to free up space this quickly into the school year is just remarkable, and I think shows an incredible commitment to this community and to the business community in particular to partner and to prioritize these relationships. Now that I have you settled and quiet, if you would please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. You may be seated, and as you do so, if you don't mind silencing your mobile devices, we would appreciate that as we move on with the program. We have a number of elected officials who are with us today to hear from the superintendent, so I ask that you please stand to be recognized and honored for your public service, and we'll hold our applause until the end of an extensive list. From the School Board of Manatee County, we have Chairman Chad Choate, School Board members Mary Foreman, Gina Messenger, Vice Chair Cindy Spray, and Richard Tatum. From the Manatee County Commission and Port Authority, we have Commissioner George Cruz and Expect Commissioner Ray Turner. From the City of Bradenton, Councilwoman Pam Coachman, Councilwoman Lisa Gonzalez-Moore, and Councilwoman Jane Coker. And representing Congressman Vern Buchanan's office, we have Tara Polton and Kara Misevich. Thank you all so much for your commitment to being here. Could we show some appreciation, please, for these folks? Also want to thank our annual Headliners sponsors who commit to supporting this type of programming for our chamber membership and allows us to put together a robust calendar of Headliners speakers for you all to enjoy and learn from and contribute your voice to important issues. And those Headliner sponsors are Career Source Suncoast, Florida Power and Light, Manatee Memorial Hospital, the Mosaic Company, and the Realtors Association of Sarasota and Manatee. Thank you so much for your sponsorship. And also a recognition of our platinum level investors in the chamber, companies that give significantly beyond their annual dues to support the growth of the mission and programming of the chamber for our members. Those platinum investors are Brown & Sons Funeral Home and Crematory, Carr, Riggs & Ingram, the City of Bradenton, Freedom Village of Bradenton, Manatee County Government, Manatee Memorial Hospital, MCR Health, the Mosaic Company, NDC Commercial Real Estate, NDC Construction Company, the Pittsburgh Pirates, Bradenton Marauders, Raymond James Wealth Management, Bruce Body, the Sarasota Bradenton International Airport, and Seaport Manatee and South State Bank. Thank you so much to our platinum investors. And also, thank you so much to Nzinga Barnett. Our luncheons look very easy, I'm sure, to attendees. That's always our goal and standard, but really the work is done behind the scenes, and thank you, Nzinga, so much for your stewardship of these events. Chemistry, geometry, English, Spanish, world history, personal finance, and weight training. These are the classes that my son is taking this semester as a 10th grader at Manatee High School. And I think about the talent that's required for the curriculum and rigor that is presented to our students at every grade level across 67 school sites, public school sites in Manatee County. A $1.5 billion projected budget, 53,000 students, 3,000 plus employees, 67 school sites, as I mentioned, including charter schools, and 44,000 meals per day that are served on our school campuses. It's an incredible effort for public education in Manatee County. The Chamber's partnership with our school district and our higher ed institutions has spanned decades, if not generations. Many of you as Chamber members are familiar with the Chamber's Big Bank Theory program, which will be coming up this fall, and we'll be looking for volunteers just like you in this class, in this event venue today to volunteer in our classrooms. The same goes for Project Teach, our initiative on career awareness in 4th grade. Business education partnerships, which are foundational to the Chamber's education and workforce initiatives, ensuring that we are giving constant reminders to businesses, nonprofit organizations, and individuals on how they can make a difference in public education through partnering with our schools or the district as a whole. And soon to be announced, industry tours that will be a project of the Chamber and the Bradenton Area EDC to kick off at 2 pilot schools this year as well. And this partnership will grow in new ways as well, as I am so pleased to announce that with the school board's approval, the School District of Manatee County will be occupying office space in the Chamber and United Way building in Lakewood Ranch to be able to continue to foster additional partnership and collaboration opportunities, as well as providing what I'll call a family welcoming center to families, particularly in the eastern portion of our community, to come and register for their children for school and to explore support services related to everything from transportation to ESE. And so we are so thrilled to be welcoming the school district into our Lakewood Ranch office here in the next several months. With that, we're going to take a break for you to enjoy a little bit of networking time as you enjoy your lunch. In just a few minutes, we'll begin the program once again, and I will no longer be at the podium. We will welcome Janelle Esposito Van Hoos, our chair of the board of the Manatee Chamber, and she will be introducing our speaker once we take a break. So please enjoy a little networking time.
Please continue to enjoy your lunch. I'm very excited about today's topic and speaker. As Jackie highlighted, the Chamber has been a consistent partner with our education and workforce development. It truly is one of our key strategies, and for anyone that's an employer in this room or works in a job that requires that you handle employing people and managing those things, you know this is a very critical issue and remains that today, finding that key workforce and keeping them here in this county. I actually got to know Dr. Wysong a little bit when I participated in the interview process. They allowed some of us in the community to meet and greet those that were interviewing, and I was pleased to meet him that day and have really enjoyed as he served over the last year. He said this is something that, the pinnacle of his career, and you know, he demonstrates that every day as he participates with the Chamber as well and attends our meetings on a regular basis, our board meetings, and keeps us up to date. I do want to let y'all know, I know we're just coming off post-election day and we're still in that whole election mode, but you know, one thing that will be on the ballot in November is renewing the 1 mill that supports our school district. And we have had that in place now for several years and has gone towards, and I'll just name a few, school safety, increased STEM programming, expansion of early literacy, and added 30 minutes of instruction time every day. It's also made us very competitive in other districts as it relates to paying our teachers what we need to pay them and ensuring that they stay and have the benefits that they need. So after careful consideration as a chamber board, and we do analyze these things very carefully, if you'll note as you look at our legislative agenda and as you look at board approved things that we kind of put the chamber's stamp of approval on, they're very carefully thought out, and we don't do it in all things. We do it with a lot of discussion in our board meetings. We do it with a lot of committee input in many instances, and we do it when we believe it supports our business community. And of course, we very strongly believe that a strong educational system in our county means a strong workforce later, right? So we very strongly support the renewal of that 1 mil, and I want to make sure I had an opportunity to say that today at this luncheon. So on to our distinguished speaker today. Dr. Jason Wysong was sworn in as superintendent in July of 2023, and again just celebrated 1 year at the helm of our district. He has shared, as I said, that serving the students and employees of the school district of Manatee County is the pinnacle of his 23-year career. His priorities have included enhancing student safety and campus security, improving student outcomes in core subject areas, ensuring that every graduate has a plan for their future, and maintaining the school district's reputation for providing high-quality opportunities for students in the arts, athletics, and career and technical education, all while showing respect for taxpayers by operating the school district with fiscal transparency and fidelity. And I do want to mention, as it relates, one more thing to that 1 mil. If you go on the school district website, and I was on it again today, they lay out very clearly how that 1 mil has been spent, and it's very detailed, very well done, and I know that they are also very transparent about that if you ever have the opportunity to speak with those who are handling and dealing with those budgeting issues. But let me just encourage you to educate yourself on that even as you discuss these issues in the community. It's a really great resource that the school district has continued to provide us. Over Dr. Wysong's career and prior to coming to Manatee County, Dr. Wysong has been a teacher, debate team coach, dean, assistant principal, and held multiple district leadership positions, including deputy superintendent. And in that role, he was responsible for leading K-12 instruction and organizing strategic action across all district departments and schools in Seminole County. He is a beneficiary of the Florida public education system, attending K-12 schools in Miami-Dade County, followed by, and this is going to take me a minute with all these degrees, the University of Florida. He got a BA in political science and history, a master's of education and social studies education, and from the University of Central Florida, an education specialist degree in educational leadership, and a doctor of education in educational leadership. Dr. Wysong is a proud Manatee County homeowner and resides here with his wife, a school administrator in Pinellas County, and their son, who attends a school district of Manatee County Elementary School. He did want me to share, he is so appreciative of how warm the welcome has been in this community, and I do have to say once again, it has been mutual. He has become so invested in this community from day one. So join me in welcoming Dr. Wysong.
Brought my phone and my clock with me this time because last year I was a bit long. So we'll try to do better this year. Good afternoon. Thank you all for taking the time out of your schedules to be here. As I looked around the room, so many of you were part of that warm welcome a year ago, and I feel truly fortunate to be part of this community and to have the opportunity to lead the school district. I want to cover several topics today, and I did put some things on slides. We'll kind of work through those and then leave time for questions, but I wanted to really give you an update on what we've accomplished the last 12 months and where we're at now and where we hope to head next. And certainly much of my leadership team is, of course, out running schools so that we can all be here. There are a few others who are here that I will introduce as I go along. But Kevin Chapman and Omar Edwards were the first people to welcome me on July 3rd a year ago and have been with me at every event and every meeting. And I just appreciate both of you gentlemen. Thank you so much. all of you who work with Kevin and Omar know that they are incredible assets, not just to the school district, but to the whole community. And so I feel very fortunate to get to work with them. I have truly enjoyed my first year as superintendent, and that's, again, largely because of the community that I have the privilege of being a part of. This is a special place, and that was part of my decision to apply, and then when the board selected me, everything that I had heard about the great community here turned out to be true. And so it's been a really fun first 13 months now. I have spent a lot of time really listening and learning, not only from all of you, but from the 6,000 employees who make up the school district. My 100-day plan that I gave to the board when I interviewed pretty much went according to plan, and that really helped me to kind of crystallize what needed to get done year one, and then how to move forward from there. I came up through schools, and that's where the action is. I get a little bit frustrated when my calendar leaves me at the office 2 days in a row without getting out somewhere to a school. On a really great week, I'll get to 3 or 4 schools during the school day, and then try to hit an event or two on the evenings and weekends. That's where the action is at, and it's where you get the most authentic feedback from teachers, from principals, from parents. And so it was really a joy to visit every school. My deputy for instruction, Derek Jensen, also visits every school every year. He spends a half day at each school, really tries to walk every classroom if he can, and then bring immediate feedback back to our curriculum teams about what we can do better to support. I'm a big believer in leadership development, and so I've spent time not only one-on-one with every district leader and every principal, with really as many teachers and other employees as possible. Obviously, when I got here, a lot of the work over the last year has been planning for the continuing growth of our school district and community. I'll go into a little more detail in a later slide, but obviously when you walk in the door as a new superintendent and you're told, we have a high school that we just opened a couple of years ago and we now need to add another building because we're already out of room. That doesn't happen very often, and so great opportunity. And then, by the way, we've already done the legwork to set up to build 5 schools over a 4-year period. That's very exciting, and I will tell you that across the state, some of my colleagues and their boards are talking about closing schools in communities where enrollment and population is declining. And the challenge of opening more schools is so much more fun than the challenge of ripping schools out of communities. So again, I feel truly fortunate. And then finally, continuing to work on the long-term financial health of the district, work that began a decade ago, and that we continue to do. The most recent challenge was the end of the federal pandemic funding. Our funding actually ends September 30th, but we've more or less wrapped up with that project and making the decisions about what programs that were started in the COVID era that need to continue and what needed to sunset. And of course, people are attached to projects, and that makes it a very sensitive, very human exercise. But we've completed that to ensure that we've got a very healthy, very sustainable budget that will support the work for the long haul. So that was some of the pieces for last year. I went too far. I want to talk about academic results from last year. When I was here a year ago, I was asked specifically about test scores, and I said, well, there's a lot in flux right now with the state assessment system, but a year from now, I can give you a much better update on where we're at. So true to my word, I'm going to do that today. The 23-24 state assessment results are the first time that we've had the full accountability formula in play, meaning we're looking at both students performing at grade level and how much each student grew from one year to the next, because proficiency and growth are both important. We had the proficiency data, but because of the change in state standards and then the change in state assessments, the end of 23-24 was the first time that we really had that learning growth piece. And so this is, from my perspective, truly our baseline about where we're at and then how we move forward. The good news is that we have the largest number of A-graded schools in a decade, 24. Twenty-four of our schools are A-rated. 20 of those 24, of course, are completely governed by our board. That's our district-operated schools, and then 4 charters as well. So a total of 24 A schools. What's really exciting is that we had some schools reach their highest point ever, and so. Specifically, Able Elementary, which is a great Title I elementary school, got back to an A for the first time since 2011, and Able today looks very different from Able in 2011, but Able Elementary at that A. Additionally, Tillman Elementary made their first A in the history of school accountability. We went all the way back to 1999, and this is Tillman Elementary's first A grade ever. Additionally, Ballard Elementary, which in the prior year was rated a D, moved all the way up to a B, and that's that learning growth piece happening. So what we're saying is we have more work to do to get more students on grade level, but the trajectory on which they're traveling to that on grade level performance is quite high. So Ballard moving from a D to a B. And finally, Parish Community High earned its first A in its school history. And Parish is doing an incredible job both with academics, but also with their arts and athletics programs, and really very quickly becoming a powerhouse high school in the state of Florida. So I told you I left my leadership team doing their jobs today, but I brought the principals of these 4 schools so that you can see who these folks are, because again, if you were here a year ago, you'll remember I told you that in my opinion, the stability and the strength of our principal corps was the key to long-term academic improvement in the school district of Manatee County. And so I brought some of these principals for you to meet. And so Samantha Webb is our principal at Able Elementary. Marla Massey Blackmore, principal of Tillman. Rudy Keyser, principal at Ballard. And Dan Bradshaw, principal at Parish Community. So these are 4 of our 51 principals, but these 4 moved their schools last year, and it isn't easy work, and each of them could come and do a presentation on what they did and what it took to get there. And now the challenge I've given to them is to hold that A, to stay there, right? Because we've all, and I think we've talked about this as a governance team, but you will see every year schools that go from a D to an A, right? And that's doable. There's a way to do it. The harder part is putting the systems in place to sustain that work for the long haul, so that when the leadership team changes, when the faculty changes, the work stays the same, the culture doesn't change, and you sustain that excellent rating for a long period of time. And that's really what we want. And that's the number one question when I got here is, why are we a B district? Why do these other districts, why are they an A every year? And that's a complicated question with a lot of different answers. But one of the most important answers is, if you build the right systems and you teach your leaders how to do that work, and your successful leaders teach others how to do it, then you get that long-term organizational excellence. So what's really important, though, is, and I'm gonna focus on Able and Tillman for a minute. You're always looking, if you're a school leader, you're always looking for a school around the state that is kind of like your school, that is outperforming you, because then you want to look and say, what are they doing better than we are? And the great news is, We now have 2 schools in our own backyard that have done this. Other districts will be calling Able and Tillman to see if they can come and visit. But more importantly, no one ever again in Manatee County gets to say, our kids can't do this, because we have 2 school communities who did it. And so, this is, I think, going to be the catalyst for a lot more school improvement at our other schools that need to take that next step. So a lot of good news here. Overall in the data, this is the state accountability system, and again, I could spend half an hour just on this slide, but the key piece is that all of these elements are the things we're graded on. And notice that a school grade and a district grade is not based on how safe the school is. It's not based on how much kids or families love the school. It's not based on how good the arts or athletics are. It's based simply on academic outcomes, and that's certainly the most important thing, but it's never the whole picture of what's happening at a school. The great news is, if you look in all of those boxes, every single one of them is up versus the prior year. Every single box. And so we're building a lot of momentum forward with these results. Many of those numbers are either tied for or highest in Manatee County in that period since 2012. And again, that spans multiple systems, and so sometimes it's not an apples to apples comparison, but that's what we're at. When you aggregate all of that data together and up for our schools, as a district, we remain a B district. We're 2 percentage points from the A, but very important for you all to know that prior to the release of this grade, the threshold for being an A district was 62%. And the morning that the grades were released, the State Board of Education moved the cut scores up. And I'm not saying that to complain. I'm not commenting on the fairness of that, but I'm saying we're now that close. And I will tell you that my principal corps and my leadership team is only even more motivated to get there because we essentially were there. And now we just have to take that next step together. So there's a lot of great news in the data. I want to hone in a little bit more on reading, because I know that is an area of concern for the community. It's a priority for our board and for our leadership team. And so looking grade level by grade level, and keep in mind that in the state accountability system, we only look at performance in grades 3 through 10 when it comes to reading and math. We don't look at K through 2, but now because of the progress monitoring system that's in place, we do have outcome data on K through 2. Our kindergartners last year finished at 55% on grade level. The state average is 54, so we're above the state average, which historically Manatee has trended just below the state average. So that group, which is benefiting from the latest instruction, the specialized training that we're giving our teachers, they're starting already at that 55 number. And so as we track that cohort, we see a lot of promise moving forward. Third grade is the state policy benchmark for where you want to see kids reading on grade level. Manatee was at 47% in 21-22. We now sit at 54%. And so we've had good positive movement at third grade. We have a lot more work to do, but what we know is that the instructional materials that have been selected, the approaches that we're using, and the training that we're giving our teachers is working. We also know that the continued community focus on early literacy and reading is working. And so we need to continue to work those challenges, and I think we'll continue to see this data go up. We're always looking at the top performing districts to see what they're doing. Right now, the highest performing district in the state is sitting at 76. I think the second highest performing district is at 71. So we've got about 20 points of movement. Now, those districts are very different from Manatee for a number of reasons. And so again, it's not an apples to apples comparison, but my point is that we're moving along nicely and we have confidence in the curriculum and instructional strategies. The reality is that reading is a process and you don't change those numbers overnight. You continue to work your plan day after day, week after week, and that's what generates that long-term growth. So for the 24-25 school year, I really have not changed the organizational priorities that I gave to the leadership team when I arrived. I'm not big on changing things up just because the calendar moves. If things are moving in the right direction, you double down and you keep going on them. So first, safety and security continues to be my highest priority. And again, I'm a dad of a student in the system. And so I take that personally and professionally very seriously. Our board is investing not only in more individuals who are trained to intervene if there's a threat to a campus, and we thank Sheriff Wells and his leadership team for getting more guardians through the training program and approved, but also technology enhancements. We do have all high school students now, when they enter a campus, moving through the Evolve system. Again, it's an AI-based touchless system. Same system you walk through at Disney World, same system you walk through at a Bradenton Marauders game. And we're moving students through there and providing that extra layer of assurance that we don't have any weapons on campus that day. We're now using those at all of our home football games, and you'll see them at other events as well. That's the physical side to security. The human side to this is working to make sure that we don't have any faces in the crowd. And what I mean by that is that every student on our campuses feels connected to a peer group, but also to an adult. And if you can get to the point where 100% of students can identify the adult they will turn to if they feel in crisis on a campus, that's your safest possible strategy, right? When you know that every kid is known by some adult on that campus. And so I've charged our principals with putting processes and systems in place so that we're building that culture of trust and belonging on our campuses. High expectations with high support. The key to moving student performance, particularly in our highest poverty communities, is that we hold all students to the same high-level standards at grade level. We provide instruction at grade level, and we provide all of the supports necessary to help those students move to that goal. It's a curriculum and instruction piece. It's also an expectations piece. When I visited Tillman Elementary last year, I asked Principal Massey Blackmore, why right now do you have some of these open positions? Are you not getting applicants? And she said, no, it's not that I don't have applicants. I don't have any applicants that meet my standard. I am not going to put I'm not going to put an adult in front of my students if I don't have 100% confidence in their ability to do the job and to meet kids' needs, right? So high expectations of students, of faculty, of our district leadership, of me, of our board. It runs the whole organization from the classroom to the boardroom. We have talked extensively about the fact that every employee is responsible for literacy, that it doesn't matter what you teach or when you teach, you are a teacher of reading, and that every single day in our classrooms, our students should be reading and writing and speaking and listening. And I told you a year ago, and I continue to talk about this, the reading and writing is what is tested. And that's fine. The travesty of that is that we lose the importance of speaking and listening and interpersonal communication. And by the way, when I talk to a lot of you who are business owners, you identify communication, collaboration as key deficiencies in the workforce. And we can fix that in K-12. We just have to be willing to realize that that's a long game move, that we're not going to see it immediately in test scores. We're going to see it in the long run in the quality of our graduates. And so that's why, again, we want to build a long-term strategy, not a short-term strategy. Retention and recruitment, absolutely have to talk about that. Retention comes first. If you retain high-quality employees, you don't have to recruit more. We're doing a lot on retention. All of you are part of that because as community members, you supported the prior millage that puts additional funds into our teachers' pockets, also into our bus drivers' pockets so that they can afford to live in this community with our students and families. That is so very important. It's also important that we're taking the time to really thank our employees for their work. And so when I got here, one of the things that Mr. Chapman talked to me about was that there had never really been a celebration of years of service in the district. And so we started looking at that, and it turned out we had 600 employees who have, it's not that they've spent 25 years on education, they've spent 25 years with the school district of Manatee County. And we had never taken the time to formally say thank you for a quarter century of service. And so we rolled that out last May during Teacher Appreciation Week. And now if you visit one of our schools, you'll see employees walking around with gold-colored lanyards so that everybody knows these are our longest serving employees, and they mean a lot to us. Our board honored 19 of our employees who have 40 years of service to the school district of Manatee County. Plant managers who have opened 5 or 6 schools, bus drivers who have run their routes thousands of times. And we had an opportunity to honor them. And so it's that retention piece that's important. On the recruitment front, we are doing very well. We're 97% staffed as of this morning. We have about 1 instructional vacancy per school. Some of that is intentional because our principals know that if their enrollment numbers don't come in, sometimes we lose an allocation. And so some of them are sitting back waiting to make sure that they've got sufficient enrollment to hire that last individual. But a lot of great work is happening on the recruitment end, and I know that USF is here and SCF is here, and it's the higher education partners that are helping us. Every time I go to a school, I ask to see new teachers. We are thrilled with the quality of the teaching professionals that we're getting out of USF with bachelor's degrees. We don't have as many of them as we used to have, but the ones that we have are truly going to be wonderful additions to the school district. So we're excited for all of those programs. We have paraprofessionals working at night to get that bachelor's degree so that they can become classroom teachers, which for them doubles their income, right, which changes their family's trajectory. And so it's just a matter of putting those programs in place with SCF, with USF to make those things happen. So we're excited about that. So accountability priorities for this year, what will I talk to you about, a year from now or next time we see each other? We're really honing in on that reading grades K through 3, looking student by student, bringing in new technology tools to help us identify specific deficiencies and focus our remediation efforts there. Science grade 5, we're investing a lot of money in STEM, but we're not seeing the outcomes on the state science test. That's a curriculum alignment issue. We'll get that fixed. Really looking at our lowest quartile of learners. That's the students scoring at the 25th percentile and below. That group tends to be students who are English language learners and then students with individualized education plans. And we have got to move those kids forward. And that's through building better student support systems. We've put some new leaders in place in those departments. We've pushed a lot of support out of the district offices and back into the schools this year. And we're confident that we're going to see growth there. And then finally, the graduation rate in Manatee County sits at 82, and we're working on an action plan. And the 7 high school principals have been tasked with moving that number to 90 in 2 years, which again requires individual conversations with families, specific planning about it's okay that you fell behind, but how do we get you back on track and get you a diploma that has meaning? And so that's the work that's happening right now. The research is very clear that the 2 most important keys to all of this work is quality teaching, and that's why retention is so important, and quality leaders. And remember that I at this event a year ago, I said, we've got to keep our principal core. We can't, as a community, every time we disagree with a decision made by a principal, and each of those principals are CEOs. They're running big organizations with big budgets, and lots of their work is regulated. They have big jobs, and we have to support our principals. I'm very proud of the fact that within our principal corps at the end of last year, we had 3 principals retire, and that had been their career plan. We lost 0 principals to other districts, other jobs, work from home, burnout, or anything else. We retained our principal corps. Equally exciting is that within our assistant principal corps, that's our group of future leaders, we lost 1 assistant principal to retirement. Everyone else signed on for another year. I can't find another district around the state that had those numbers last year. And again, the key to our long-term success is going to be keeping those principals and assistant principals feeling supported, both by the community and by the district. And so that'll continue to be a priority of mine. We're obviously working right now in growth mode. Again, 5 new schools scheduled to open over the next 3 years. There is lots happening at the 2 schools that are scheduled to open in August of 25. The K-8 out east is our first ever ground up build of a K-8, and that project is moving along well. The elementary portion will open in August of 25, and we'll be ready to welcome middle school students in August of 26 there. The middle 1 school up in the North River Ranch area will also open in August of 25, and we have a very unique model planned for that school that will be debuting at a school board workshop next month. So more news to come there. We have 2 more elementary schools that we're wrapping up selection of an architect on. We'll design those schools similarly because they're in very different parts of the county, but they're on similar timelines. And so again, we want to be efficient with taxpayer dollars. So again, that'll be in the Artisan Lakes area and then in the Rye Ranch area. And then finally, we're on track to talk about the district's 8th high school, currently August of 2027. That will be a very unique opportunity because we're very fortunate to have enough land to build a comprehensive high school there, but also to try some unique things. So lots more to come there, but that's the growth plan over the next 3 years. I also want to follow up on a topic I talked about last year. The Chamber is an incredible supporter of the district, and I can't thank Jackie and the board enough for all of these programs. But, and this has been true in a lot of school districts, a little bit of a decline in overall business participation in school districts. And I think that goes back to the pandemic and so many of the things that were put into place. But we're open for partnership. We want you in our schools. If you've not been in one of our schools in a while and you'd like to visit, you're welcome to chat with any of the 4 principals. They would love to host you. If you want to reach out to me, you can join me on one of my school visits, and we'll just walk classrooms and talk to teachers and meet the leaders who are doing the work. But again, our business partnerships last year were back up, both overall number of partners and number of engagement requests. So we're very excited that that number is moving forward. And finally, the renewal referendum is coming up. The state law changed, and so no district employee, including appointed superintendents, can do anything to advocate or indicate support for a ballot initiative like this. And so you won't hear much from me. The district is really just able to provide factual information. So here you go. Our board approved the referendum renewal last spring. The county commission also unanimously unanimously approved moving the language to the ballot. It is structured similarly to prior referendums that have been approved. There were some additions, including safety and security. And again, that's multidimensional. It's not just the hardening of campuses, but it's how we support students. You see some of the other uses up there. Expanding early literacy programs. From among our entire Ready 2026 strategic plan, our board has identified early literacy as its kind of unified #1 priority, because we know that when kids get access to voluntary pre-kindergarten and other early intervention programs, they're more likely to read on grade level by grade 3. And so we've added that language to the referendum. Athletics has also been added to the referendum. Certainly we have some very successful programs, and we would love to see more. So that's that. Looking forward to 2025, just some things that are coming up. Of course, we'll have 3 new board members when the board reorganizes at the end of November. Next year, there's going to be lots of conversation about the structure of our district, because when you open those new schools, you have to create attendance zones, which requires the movement of lines. So we'll be talking about that. We'll also be talking, when we do that, about how large or how small we want each of our schools to be. That's an important conversation because parent preference around school size is changing. And finally, the legislature has mandated that school start times change starting in the 26-27 school year, and we need to begin planning for that because there are some challenging policy choices that will face our next board. Beyond that, as we work on those kind of core academic goals, we want to start talking more about, as a local community, what do we really want our graduates to know? And so last summer we engaged a firm, and some of you participated in this exercise. A group met 4 times, and we started identifying the qualities and skills that we think a future School District of Manatee graduate needs to have in order to be successful in their future economy, in their future community. And we started looking at, what do those skills look like? How do they compare to what we're teaching now? And how do we shift so that we're doing school accountability as required by the state, but that we're also teaching kids what we believe they need to know for their future? So we're going to be talking more about that. And I know at the chamber retreat, I'm going to zone in a little bit on that. So if you're attending there, you'll get to see that group's work and give us some input on it. And then finally, as we get toward the middle and end of 2025, we'll start talking again as a community about what the board should put in its next strategic plan, which would run 2026 to 2031. And of course, all along, we're remembering that our current kindergarten students are class of 2037, and our VPK students are class of 2038. And so when we talk about planning for their futures, we're planning for the 2040s. With that, I think it's incredibly significant that all 5 of our school board members are here today. There are many communities around the country where you simply wouldn't see that happen. And of course, we are going to have a changeover in our board soon. But this is a board I'll always remember. You're the board that selected me, that allowed me to come and do great work. Within our first year together, we became certified by the Florida School Boards Association as a master board. The governance partnership has been very effective, and all 5 of you have contributed to the calm, stable environment that our principals and our teachers need so that they can focus on student learning. So to our school board, our community board, I thank you, and I know that the community thanks you as well. So if we still have time for questions, we'll.
Thanks for a great presentation, Superintendent. I did have one question about your slide on reading and math. Where was the writing? That's I think one of the most important aspects of education. If you can't put together subject, verb, object in a coherent paragraph, no one's going to pay any attention to you. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So the role from an outcomes perspective, writing historically has been part of that English language arts or reading score. With the retooling of the test, the state has not yet put writing scores back into the English language arts test. So we had some students who were assessed on writing last year, but that data is not part of kind of the summative outcome. I will tell you that what I have told the principals is that regardless of whether it ever goes back into the state assessment formula or not, we want to see evidence of students writing daily, right? It contributes to the thought process. And if we visit elementary, in fact, we have elementary schools that already have writing posted from last week, but that we also want to see writing posted with feedback, right? That the teacher has gone through and said, this is a persuasive argument, but note these kind of corrections. So we want to see that we're giving feedback to students on what they're writing. But again, with the new assessment system, there's no data that's going into that yet. One of the challenges, and again, this is a state policy issue, is once upon a time, the writing test was graded by people, right? And so that takes time if you're going to read essays for hundreds of thousands of students and then turn that data around. And that always delayed the release of test scores. The current thinking is to go to machine-scored assessment, which speeds up the level of the feedback, but still makes educators really nervous, right? Plus, it takes time to, for the machine to kind of, for that machine learning to look at enough papers where then your outcomes are reliable. So writing is still in progress, but please know it's an expectation of mine that it's happening every day, and certainly I think you could chat with the principals about where they're at with that. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarity of the slides. We could read them in big print. I may be showing a little bit of my ignorance on this, but I'm curious a little bit about the metric to give a school an A rating. And I think closely related to that, am I understanding that if a school or whatever, the reading is at 50-something%, they are still given an A rating? Is that, you understand where I'm coming from? If you could address that.
Sure. So the reading components roll up to that school grade, and then all the school grades roll up to the district grade. And so there's no, kind of minimum threshold. So you'll see some schools that get to an A that are stronger in reading and math. You might see some schools where math is stronger than reading. And there are a lot of different reasons for that. I think the key is there are no districts where 100% of students read on grade level, and there may be multiple reasons for that. In Manatee, one of the things that I think is important to know is, and again, the data is going to shift every year. Last year, about 12.8% of our students were officially English language learners, right? So their first language is not English. They're in the process of learning another language. Some students come in who are English language learners and they're proficient in their native language. Others struggle in that language, and now they're having to learn English as well, right? And so some of those structures aren't in place. So Manatee, I think, more so than other districts, but maybe less so than some others, has that dynamic. We recently had a board presentation where if you trace all of our kind of students back, about 20% of our students in total were once English language learners, right? And so they get to that point where they're exited from that program, but at the heart of that is still that thinking in one language, translating and taught, which is why and that's where evidence-based practice is so important, right? Because sometimes as a teacher, I'm trying to get through everything I have to do, right? And you can't give me the answer quick enough, so I move over to Mary, but if I give you 5 more seconds, you finish that connection, you give me the answer, I give you the specific praise, your confidence improves, that shows in terms of motivation on the next test. So that's where all of this evidence-based practice, is really important. But again, that top performing reading district in the state sitting at 76, we obviously have a long way to go, but their challenges are different from ours. Yeah.
Hi there, Maddie Timpanik from the Career Center at New College of Florida. Thank you for your presentation today. We have a strong partnership with the School District of Manatee County through our Pathways to Teaching internship program that hopefully leads to full-time teaching opportunities. And I was curious, it's really exciting news that we're planning to open multiple schools over the next few years. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about your recruitment plan of those teachers and how you might be working with the regional higher education partners such as New College.
Yeah, thank you and I'm sorry, I just didn't see you sitting there, but I saw USF and saw SCF, but we appreciate the New College partnership as well. Anytime you open new schools, you're adding fixed costs, so you don't just have the capital construction cost you have now. You're running, 5 more plants, 5 more sets of everything. So we have to address that from a budget perspective. From a recruitment perspective, you'll have a couple of things happening there. First, you're going to name a principal somewhere between 6 and 12 months in advance, depending on the specifics of the school and the complexity. So we've already named the principals for the new K-8 and the new middle grades campus. And usually you need highly successful, long tenured principals to open new schools because it's just such a different scope of work than a typical principalship. And the reality is a lot of those principals have followings. So we already have lots of people who want to go to those new buildings because they're following a leader. And then also the reality is that as our county expands geographically, you have teachers who are driving across the county, and when that new school opens up 2 miles from their house, that may be a reason, why, for them to make a change. So typically we don't have a challenge staffing new schools. It's really the backfill of those individuals. Now, in our case, some of these campuses are being opened to relieve schools that are already above capacity. So those staff that staff will get smaller, and those folks will either go to the new school or backfill other positions. So I don't think it's a lot different from our typical recruiting, but it does push up the number of teachers. So it is something we'll have to watch. Thank you. Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Well, according to my watch, not only did we start class on time, but we're ending class on time. And talk about classroom management and leadership. You could hear a pin drop, so to say, during your presentation. So Dr. Wysong, thank you so much. As was mentioned in opening comments by our chair, your participation, your presence with the business community through the chamber has been noticeable and appreciated, and we believe will continue to pay dividends. So thank you, and what a sign of leadership that he brought those 4 principals today. So to our principals, thank you every day. Thank you. So in closing, for those of you who may now need to know more about the renewal of the 1 mil, in addition to the information and transparency that's offered on the school district site, I will let you know there is a community-based group in support of the renewal of the 1 mil, and you can find more information about that campaign and how you can support it if you are so inclined at forwardmanatee.com. So that's forwardmanatee.com for anyone who wants to know more. We'll wrap it up by thanks once again to our annual headliner sponsors, Career Source Suncoast, Florida Power and Light, Manatee Memorial Hospital, the Mosaic Company, and the Realtors Association of Sarasota Manatee. And finally, hats off and thank you to our longtime partners at Manatee Educational Television for being here. Chris and your team, thank you for supporting the Chamber. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.